Hi, this is Chris Lee at Vandy Sports. And earlier we did a video breaking down Clark Lee's press conference and what was said. Today, or this afternoon, actually, we're going to go over the depth chart, which has just been released in the last few minutes. And so I'll react to it basically as I'm seeing it. From the top down on offense, wide receiver, not really a surprise here. Will Shepard, Cam Johnson, and Chris Pierce are the three guys that I thought would start, and they are indeed starting, backed up by Quincy Skinner, Devin Body, and Amir Abdul-Rahman. None of those surprises. Logan Kyle, maybe the guy that's tough luck squeezed out for the first three teams. Kyle had a good camp, but this is just a receiving group that, frankly, is stronger in terms of depth than Vanderbilt's had in years. Now, I don't know that it is in terms of top end talent. I don't think that there's some guys they've had, Jordan Matthews, Chris Boyd. There's not a 1-2 punch like that. But in terms of going 6, 7, 8 deep, I think this is a solid group. And so somebody had to get squeezed out, and Logan Kyle, kind of the guy there, but I think he could play a role for them. Quarterback, we mentioned already, no surprise. Ken Seals is going to be the guy there. Mike Wright listed second, Jeremy Musa third. So not going to go into that because I talked about that after Clark's press conference today already. You go to running back, Ray Davis, the guy there backed up by Rocco Griffin. That's pretty much what I expected as well. Tight end, same thing. Ben Bresnahan, Gavin Schoenwald are the top two, which is what I expected. Now, here's a little bit of surprise. Braden Bapst is their number three. I thought that Justin Ball might be their three. He's played there before. Bapst is a kid who converted from left tackle in camp and now is taking the tight end job, in the number three. So good for him. He's a kid who's a really good athlete, but has never played tight end before, at least not recently. So seeing him on here as the third tight end, a little bit of validation of the camp that he had. Your starting offensive line from left tackle to right guard goes this way: Tyler Steen, Cole Clemens, Michael Warden, Ben Cox, and Bradley Ashmore. Now, surprises in there. If you had told me at the start of camp that Michael Warden was going to be their starting center, I would not have expected that. Kevo Wesley, a guy that started the spring game at center and got really good reviews from the coaching staff. Julian Hernandez is a guy that I probably thought would have won it going into camp. Hernandez is listed as the second team left guard. But left tackle Steen, no surprise that he won that job. Jason Brooks is his backup. Didn't know exactly who would settle there, but Brooks, I think, was playing left tackle late in camp. He's played a few places. Hernandez is backing up Clemens at left guard. The only real surprise there with Clemens starting is we weren't sure if he was going to play in week one. He was held out of camp a little bit with what looked like maybe a knee issue or an ankle issue, perhaps. He was limping a little bit late in camp, but good to see him there. At center, again, that's the one that we thought a lot about. Michael Warden, a walk-on. I don't think he's played a snap, or if he has, it's not been many. So that's a surprise, but good for him. That's a great story. You don't see a lot of walk-ons play at Vanderbilt and certainly not start. And so that's a really good story there. Right guard. Now, if you're looking for a surprise, this might be one. I'm not shocked because I saw Ben Cox running first team in camp. But what you didn't know is after injuries settled in, or after guys settled in once they got everybody healthy, would he land a starting job? I thought it might be Bryce Bailey or maybe Dan Dawkins. Bailey and Dawkins are listed as an or behind Cox, but that's an interesting one. I think of the things that surprised me, that would be up there on the list of things. I'm not shocked by it because, again, I saw him taking a lot of reps in camp and even getting some starts some days, but didn't know how that would settle, but it settled that way. Bradley Ashmore, the starting right tackle, that's no surprise. Junior Uzebu, who is the transfer from West Virginia, is his backup, so that's not really a shocker either. On the defensive side, and I'm looking at this for the first time, the starting four defensive linemen are the guys that I would have expected. Elijah McAllister playing that star position that's a hybrid edge guy who will drop off in coverage sometimes, and sometimes he'll stand up and rush the passer. So he and Nate Clifton are basically the ends. Those are the guys that ran first team through most of camp. In the middle, no surprise again, Davion Davis and Malik Langham were guys who were running first team frequently. They landed the jobs. At linebacker, Now, here's a little bit of surprise. It's not in the Anthony Orgy, Ethan Barr part because I thought both of those guys would start, and they are. But they're listing Michael Owusu and Dericky Wright as an or at that other position. Now, I think that's an or because of Wright's health, because he really dominated at times in camp, and he missed some time near the end of camp. I don't know if it was an injury or what the deal was, but certainly they were trying to keep him healthy. He's potentially one of the top 5 players on this team if he can stay healthy through a full year. So I would presume that is probably more of a situation where they're monitoring his health and just making sure he can go going into week 1. So that's a thing to look at. Another thing here, here's a little bit of surprise. I didn't know who that last corner was going to be. I thought it would be BG Anderson, but Gabe Judy Lawley has landed that job. Now, at times he was playing that anchor position that Wright plays, it looked like, when Wright wasn't on the field. So if Wright doesn't start, it's not really a shock to see Gabe Judy Lawley out there. And I am surprised that BJ Anderson's not starting. I thought he was pretty solid in camp, not spectacular, but generally got the job done. Maybe that's a good sign for Vanderbilt. Corner was a real position of need for them last year. So to see a guy like Anderson, who's given them some quality reps as a backup, maybe that's a good sign that they have improved there a little bit. But they've got Judy Lawley starting ahead of Anderson at 1 and Jalen Mahoney starting ahead of Alan George. Now, George is really the guy that I meant. They're from the same hometown. George is a guy that I thought would start. Anderson has been hurt for part of camp, and so I'm not shocked that he comes off the bench to start the year. But George is the guy that I would have thought would have started for them. So that's a little bit of surprise. No surprise to see Jalen Mahoney on the field. And again, you may see 2 linebackers and 3 DBs. So it may not look exactly like what they've got on paper. In fact, most of the time, I think that's what it will look like. Again, I expect Wright to be on the field if he's healthy. At safety, they're going Worship and Jerkins. That never wavered during camp, so not surprised there. Jerkins had a good camp. Worship has been solid. They're backed up by Brennan Harris and Chase Lloyd. Lloyd saw the field a lot in the spring, or excuse me, in August for sure. So I think he's a backup who's going to play a good bit. Justin Harris not on the depth chart, not really a shock because Harris was in a red jersey through most of August. And so him not being out there, not a huge surprise. Going to special teams, Joseph Bulovas won the place kicking job. Not a shock there. The Alabama transfer, he seemed like the option most of camp. Punter Harrison Smith, no shock at all. Smith had a great camp. And so to see him as a starting punter is exactly what I would have expected. A return man, they've got Cam Johnson as their primary kickoff and punt returner. No shock there. Johnson, I think, got most reps, or maybe not most, but more reps than other people that I saw in camp. Devin Body is his backup. Thought Taco Wright might be a factor there in the return game, and he may be yet, but for right now, they're going with the more veteran approach with Johnson and Body. So anyway, there's your depth chart. Again, not a lot of big surprises. I guess the biggest one that I wondered about was what would they do with the guards. Again, that's Ben Cox at right guard, Cole Clemens at left guard. Dericky Wright's health, I think, dictates kind of what they did on the defensive side there. So you want to see that kid healthy, if not for the ETSU game, certainly afterwards, because they're going to need him. And really not a lot of other surprises elsewhere. Again, Gabe Judy Lawley, a guy that I didn't know if he'd start or not. He was probably the first corner coming off the bench if he didn't start. So he won a starting job. And again, a little surprised not to see Alan George in the starting lineup, but I think he'll play a lot. Anyway, we will do these on Tuesdays after Clark Lea's press conferences. We'll talk about the depth chart. We will talk about what Clark Lee said every day, or not every day, but in his Tuesday press conferences. And again, we're going to do these in season after games. We will go to a YouTube live broadcast after the games and break down what happened there. Bruno Reagan should be joining me. So anyway, I hope you like the YouTube live format. We're going to be doing a lot more than that. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate that. That helps get us noticed. But anyway, I'm Chris Lee, the publisher at VandySports.com. Thank you for watching. And again, we have a lot more of these videos to come for you during football season.